Welcome to the Ralph Rant. I am your host, the Ralph, and I find myself here somewhere deep in the Great Lakes after we got up early this morning and drove in one direction for 3 hours and ended up somewhere far away from the television set from last night. But as you can see, we ended up in the dolphin-colored cottage. So it's been that kind of weekend. The Sunday night preseason debacle, I have to preface it with preseason, was unfortunate. However, I want you all to jog your memories and not panic because the same thing happened last year. Caleb Williams loves to have coming out parties versus the Bills. It happened last year as a rookie, and the Bills were defeated 30-3. So I'm not panicking about what happened last night, but there is a lot of unease, obviously. I think the first point you have to go to is one that Jerry Ostrowski made on the Bill Squad show, part of Lockdown with Joe Marino and Jeremy White, where he indicated that the Bills and the Bills and the Bears were two teams in very different places in this preseason. The Bills coming off of multiple playoff runs, 5 division titles, trying to get through the preseason unscathed. And then we've got the Bears who have been trying to win for so long, and what we ended up seeing was them coming out with a tune-up for the regular season. And listen, I saw some game planning last night by Ben Johnson, and why not? He wants to get his club going. It's important for him to have this happening by the start of the regular season. It's his new job. He's got to make sure this is right. So I get that. That doesn't excuse what happened on the Bills side. And I do believe on the defensive side, where I want to talk about the secondary, where a lot of people have focus. People are worried about the safety position, Cole Bishop. People are worried about how Joe Andreessen doesn't seem to be able to cover anybody. I just want to remind people that, especially with Andreessen, we were talking about the very same things with Dorian Williams. And Dorian got his minutes and was okay. So, yes, it looked ugly last night. Yes, it looked like the secondary, learning McDermott's match coverages, his zone match principles, and their rules, got under the bright lights in the big crowd and essentially just forgot everything. And guys were running wide open. If McDermott talks about failing forward, well, he certainly accomplished that last night, but I actually think there's going to be some value in it. It's going to be, or it was, I'm sure this morning, a tough day in the film room for the Bills, going over this tape and looking at what went on. I think a lot of fundamentals were just forgotten in the bright lights, like I said before. I think there was inconsistency, of course, because there were a few flashes. You had to like what you saw from Jordan Hancock, Tyrell Shavers, for example, and Frank Gore just continues to be good, even with his low RAS score and athletic profile. But I think what it comes down to is that the Bills went through this joint practice, and it was focused largely on the ones. And I think there was a lot of momentum coming out of that practice with how the ones performed. Of course, Sports Illustrated tried to make a big deal out of the fact that Josh Allen threw 3 interceptions. Of course, they failed to mention that was during 7-on-7 when they're essentially experimenting. I think the Bills are going to be fine. And another great point, really, that Jerry Ostrowski made is that some of these good rookies will look much better if they are on the field, inserted with the ones, for example, rather than being out there by themselves. He says this from playing experience, but of course the old saying goes, when a guy that comes in that makes people around him better, well, I think that's sort of the same idea, almost in reverse. The guy that comes in where the other people around him will make him better. And I think that'll be the case when you see the likes of TJ Sanders and Deion Walker and Landon Jackson getting inserted in this defensive line, which of course is going to happen a lot more probably in these first 6 weeks with the suspensions of Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi. And we know that TJ turned his ankle last night, got it taped but sat out. That is just to point out maybe part of the reason, or part of the reason was lab experiment as to why we saw so many different combinations of players. And certainly the bottom of the roster got used. Every last player, I think, nearly was on that field last night. And McDermott played it in a certain way during his post game, where he indicated, listen, our twos were against their ones and they should have competed together, and then it was twos versus twos and threes versus threes, and it really didn't matter. It just wasn't a Bills performance. But I think coming out of that practice, there was a little bit of hype and a little momentum for what the Bills had done, and it got to be a little bit of a letdown or something tonight. Last night the team was off, and it just didn't look right. But I go back to what I said to start, and that is the fact that the Bills got beaten by the same team a year ago, 30-3, and it happens. And it doesn't count. Yes, it matters. Yes, we found out things, but guys are going to see things, and I've got to believe the Bills are good teachers. And I believe underneath it all, Sean McDermott took that opportunity last night, probably having some kind of idea what Chicago would try to look like with Ben Johnson trying to get this team kickstarted into what is a pretty difficult beginning of the schedule even. So I think McDermott might have known that was coming, and I think he threw some guys to the wolves to really see what would happen. And it was wolves, and it looked ugly. But don't panic. Don't panic. It's going to be fine. The guys that you think didn't look good last night are going to be fine. I know Cole Bishop is still a big question. They seem to have confidence, but he's just got to get the time. He's going to have a week of practice here, and then he's going to have another game. Let's wait till we get to the start of the season, because we did see on a couple of occasions last night the Bills doing some five-man pressures, and some things were getting home. It's going to be all right. So I'm going to cut it off here, and I've got a vid coming out later in the week, because I still have a huge problem with this Hawkeye system of measuring for line to gain. Because it's not about how far away it is. It is either a first down or a touchdown, or it's not. But the problem that's being attacked is not the problem that the outcry came out about when Josh Allen wasn't awarded the first down that he got in the AFC title game. And I'll tease it with that. So I am the Ralph. This is the Ralph Rant. Thanks for listening. We'll be back in the studio and off the iPhone for the next show. Be good. Go Bills. I'm out.